Hi there, and welcome to another TDA Talks. If you haven't tuned in before, I'm Kim Wardle, Global Commercial Director for TDA, the Tech Product and Design Talent Agency. And even though recruiting is our day job, we also love to give back to our communities by sharing bold ideas, fresh perspectives, and deep insights from some of the world's most inspiring leaders. Now, let's get to the exciting part. I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, JB Chaykowsky, Director of Creative and Design at the innovative payments platform Redpin. JB, I would love for you to start by telling us a bit about your background and how your journey began in design.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me here as well. I really appreciate the time to tell my story and maybe give back to the community as well. I've been a professional designer for 21 years now. But my path is very interesting. I got out of college and I joined an architecture firm, but I was not an architect. I was a graphic designer, as they used to be called back in the day. And through that experience of working at a top tier architecture firm, working on signage and graphics and brand, I really came to recognize design as a force of change, not just in the physical environment, but also cultural change and inside of businesses. And that really set the tone for the rest of my career. And we all felt the impact in the cultural change of the iPhone, I think when the iPhone came out. And I was really interested in getting back to technology, not for this day, but I was really into technology as a kid. And I joined a tech agency known as Bottle Rocket, which is located in Dallas, Texas. And I worked with really large brands like Chick-fil-A, Coca-Cola, Showtime, Fox News, NBC. And that was an amazing experience to work with these large brands on emerging technology. And then I landed at Intuit, where I spent the last 10 years since moving here to Redpin, where I led teams both in the United States and here, where I'm located in the UK, France. And I had a global team prior to my uh, leaving Intuit. And now I'm here at Redpin, where I get to collect all of that experience I've had from the branding to the technology agency and the brand and how that translates into the experience, all the way into the UX and delivering benefit directly to customers here. And it's been a great journey, but everything's led me to this one moment, and I'm really excited to be here at Redpin. Yeah.
Lovely. Now, you recently took on the role at Redpin, didn't you? How long have you been there?
Yes.
When did you start?
Oh, I'm in week 8,
Week
I
eight.
think right now. Yeah, so pretty new. I'm in my 60 days, but yeah, it's been full on since joining. It's been fun. Yeah.
And what drew you to the opportunity, obviously after leaving Intuit?
Yeah.
And what are you excited about most in the next chapter?
Yeah, I love that question. So at Redpin, I'm a values-based leader, and um, I want to make sure I have an impact on my customers directly. And there was a great opportunity here to do that and to build a new product and to build up a brand. And so there was that challenge. And this idea of what we talk about here is simplifying, life's most important payments. And this is property payments. Property is it's a fundamental foundation of society and civilization. And yeah, the opportunity just felt, again, that connection of all the things that I've learned in the past. And like we're doing a renovation of our current office, and I'm helping with that. So even the architecture stuff is really, really exciting. The branding, building the brand, and then ultimately this new product, which I believe will revolutionize the way that people purchase property, and help real estate agents and notaries and all the things that I'm learning about right now, efficiently do that without challenge and to reduce risk for all parties involved. I'm really excited about that. And then the other thing is like building. One of the things about working in a large company in big tech, Silicon Valley tech, is that a lot of decisions are made about the culture. And one of the great things that I've always wanted to do in my life is to build the culture from the ground up. And that's the opportunity that I also have here is to develop and put to action all my thoughts and theories about how design culture can permeate an entire company. Um, and there's a long history here, 20-year history of great service. We have a 4.9 in Trustpilot score. If I told you our NPS number, it would blow your mind. I'm going to keep that close to my chest right now. So there's that service mentality, and now how can we turn that service mentality into a design mentality where we deliver awesome for our customers through the product? And um, yeah, just that really enticed me, that connection between their history and where they want to go. And now I get to be a part of that team and help grow that.
So exciting.
Yeah,
Now, I don't know if you know this, but AI is seriously leading the charge in innovation at the moment.
yeah,
Now, obviously, with that, there is a lot of disruption and uncertainty across the industry, and design as a discipline seems to be undergoing a huge transformation. What shifts are you seeing, and how do you think that'll shape the future of the profession?
man. Yeah, great question. Uh, I wouldn't say I'm on the bleeding edge, but I'm definitely on the cutting edge here. I've written about this for myself, and then I shared a lot of those thoughts online. And it comes down to that I don't believe the design process is changing.
Mhm.
I believe the tooling and potentially the speed is changing, the speed of the feedback loop. Um, I'll give you a quick example. So I love using Cursor to build things. Like I'm building my own apps. I've saved myself hundreds of dollars by just building versions of things that I've already was paying for. And I'm building my own apps for like the App Store using Cursor and Xcode. And what I found about it is that yes, it's going to make mistakes. It's going to change things that I don't want it to change. But in that moment of when it comes back with something that I've prompted and it's wrong, it's still serendipitous in the way that it might present something to me that I never thought about. And this is after I've sketched and everything. So it's not really changed the way that I think about the problem, but it's definitely changed the way that I evaluate the solution that I'm having in my problem. So I think that's first, is that it's the same process, but there's now a conversation between you and the output. And I say this all the time to my teams. Uh, Figma's great, but Figma's fake. It's a figment of your imagination. It's not reality. Code is real. And
Mhm.
so I guess that would be the second thing is that design is going to get super close to code, like super close. And I was just reading about another great UK company here, Intercom, where their designers are, submitting PRs and changes to the code. And and that's where I think some things are going to start happening is that connection between design and the Figma and the code is going to get closer and closer and closer together until it's blurred. And I see a lot of designers potentially moving into some strange front end world.
Mhm.
And then the third thing, again, hot take thought is is that every time we democratize a part of design, whether that's Photoshop or layouts or Canva or whatever it might be, like the overall bottom of the barrel things that used to exist get elevated up and good, like the baseline of good gets better. So there's more good design, which is great. I think like designers worried about AI should also be like, well, at least some of those things that annoy me will probably be taken care of. Like
Yes.
maybe it's like layout things or typography choices, whatever it might be, right? And there is the potential that we start seeing sameness, but I would say that that's pretty much already here now, anyways. But as things go up, I believe that bad and good design are closer than good and great. And so I think the gap between good and great is going to increase. But it will also, as great things happen, will be easier to mimic. And so there's going to be this race. And I worry about design, uh, potentially mostly in product and digital. I think physical items always have that curve of like it's hard to make physical things, even if you have like access to factories. But I think digital design, we have to worry about it becoming a fast fashion follow thing where somebody does something and then everybody else just copies. And so the good to great's going to expand, but at the same time, it's going to speed up the delivery of that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, same process, closer to code, and yeah, the great gap. We'll see what happens there. Yeah.
Great predictions. And with so much change, what about the designers who are starting out in today's climate? I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it, to predict that one? But what advice would you give to help them build a meaningful and resilient career? Because I guess with where we are, you have to be resilient. What's your tips here?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to reflect on my experience.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in Massimo Vignelli's, if you can design one thing, you can design everything. And that annoys people sometimes, like that, like, like I have friends that are fashion designers and they're like, you don't know the first thing about designing a sweater or something. And I'm like, true, but I can learn, you know. And so and I can use my design thinking in order to get to that place where maybe I design something and I can learn from other people. Um, so I think having that resilience of knowing that design's going to continually shift and change, and there's always going to be something new, and you just have to be on the crest of it. You cannot wait for something. You have to pursue it. You have to define the situation before it actually defines you. And early in my career, I was not ready for that. So when I left college or university, I was not ready for the web. And so I had to take a different path, but I got back there through the processes of the learning within the architecture community. And then I was able to parlay that into a digital discussion. And so if you might not start out on the path that you want, but if you continually focus on getting better and honing your skills as a designer, a problem solver, I think that's the first thing you should do. The second thing, if you're still in university right now, um, you have to learn how to think. And I went to a liberal arts school, so I learned chemistry, philosophy, critical thinking skills. I took religion classes. Uh, I'm interested in interesting things, and everything's interesting. And if you're a designer and you're just, and again, I'm like, if you're just fully focused on craft and hand skills, that's fine. Like, go for it. But I think the designers of the future have to be interested in the globe, the culture, other people's points of view, how other people think.
Mhm.
Because the tools, the access to tools, the delivery of design is going to get faster. And generalists, I think, are going to have a superpower that other people don't have. And so if you're in school and you're only doing art classes, I would really urge you to take a philosophy class or a religion class, even if you're not part of that religion, to understand how people think. And you have to learn how to think, how other people think, so you can make better decisions. Um, yeah, yeah, I think those two things are important. Like if you're currently in a place where you just feel stuck, know that the path hasn't been written for you. Go write the path. And if you haven't started out, I would start really thinking about how do you how do you get as much information about the world as possible so you can be a better designer and utilize that as a positive during your interview process with individuals.
That's brilliant. So constantly learning and stay curious is basically the top tips there, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And what about for the more experienced folks navigating change? Whether
Yeah.
that's switching domains or taking a new direction, how do you personally approach those pivotal career decisions?
Yeah. So I just did this. So it's
Of course.
kind of close to my heart. And I had spent a decade, like a quarter of my life working at into it. And like to think about that, that's like wild to me. And I was afforded so many opportunities. I was able to move to another country and live out my dream of being an international global citizen. But at the same time, you have to look around and be like, what's best for me, right? And I asked myself a ton of questions during that process. It wasn't an easy process. It didn't happen overnight. I talked to other companies. I failed in interviews with other companies, and I was successful, obviously, with this new one. But the questions I was asking myself was, um, like, how close am I to the business? And what I mean by that is like, do I have a direct impact here that I want to have? And it's ebb and flow for some people. Like you might be okay. I'm okay. It's a comfortable job right now. I'm good with this. I just had a child, whatever it might be, right? You might have that, like that moment where you're like, it's an ebb moment, not a flow moment, right? I'm gonna take a step back. So to me, it's like, where are you in the biz? Are you happy with how close you are to the business? And what I mean by is like direct impact to the business and making a change in that organization. Um, and are you happy there? Because you might be. The second thing I would ask is like, where are you, especially if you're working for a global company, where are you in terms of your headquarters? Like for me, and just to speak openly about this, is that for me to move up at Intuit would have meant that I had to move back to the United States, which would meant that I would uproot my family and a child who's 8 years old, who loves living here. My wife loves living here. I love living here. And that was just not in the cards for me. And so, how close are you to the sun, is what I would say in that one, right? How close are you to getting the warmth and all the things that you need to be successful in your career? And then that turns into how close are you to the opportunity that you want? And I looked at those things and like, it wasn't just like, I'm not ranking or rating them, but I asked myself, am I where I'm at to be the most successful and to lift me up to where I want to be as a leader, a business leader, and a people leader? And then I made a decision to put myself in that position. Now, in life, I've taken these risks in the past and they've been successful, and I call them slingshots. And so with this change comes changes that other people might not be able to trade off. Could be money, it could be time, it could be whatever it might be. But you have to pull back a little bit in order to fling yourself forward into the future and hit that target that you want to get to. Because if you're not, if you, sometimes if you don't do that, you won't get there, right? And there was a very crucial conversation I had at my time at Intuit where we were hiring somebody new, and I wasn't at that level yet, and I truly understood that it wasn't about that. But the person made a comment. The comment was, we needed to go outside of the company to hire because nobody has that experience in house. And then I realized if I wanted to go get that job in the future, that I would never get that experience because that experience was outside of that company in order to provide that. So, and then by hiring that person, that experience now is null and void in for me. And that's not a bash on anything. That's just reality. That's the reality of business sometimes. Like people change, there's significant changes in everybody's companies so far. And so I was like, man, if I want to get to where I want to get to, it can't be here. And that doesn't mean that doesn't work for other people, but it didn't work for me. And so all this convolution. So you have to ask yourself, like, can you get to where you want to get to? Do you have a true understanding of where you want to go? And then I know I'm going long here, but the last thing is like, what makes you free? Like we we trap ourselves in life, and I've trapped myself previously in things, and not into it. I want to be clear, but like mental traps of like, oh, if I change this, it's going to put this at risk, and like, and for some people that's real. You might have a health condition, you don't want to switch jobs because your health insurance in the United States or whatever it might be. Those are really real things that you need to consider. But you should know what is trapping you, whether that's mental, it's a financial situation, or whatever it might be. So that way you can find your way to get out of that. So that you can then have the freedom to make a decision or take a risk. And sometimes that takes time. And, there were, I can remember when I left the architecture firm, uh, the CEO said to me, they tried to convince me to stay, and I said, no, I'm sorry, whatever. Um, he was like, well, there's a lot of people that leave that company that you're going to. And I was like, oh, well, I guess we'll find out. And the reason that everybody was leaving at that company was because they were getting jobs working for Silicon Valley company. They weren't like, it wasn't like a turnover issue. It
Yeah,
was like an opportunity issue. And you just don't know what's on the other side. So that's kind of, that would be my advice to people is like, you got to know where you're at. You got to know what the opportunity is for you and what you were trying to think, and then what's holding you back. What's not making you free so you can have that freedom to go make that decision. And it means that sometimes you give something up. And I'll be honest, I've given a lot, like not a lot, but like I've given up things to be in this position right now to try to get to where I want to get to with this company. And I think Redpin is the place where we're going to make some amazing stuff. There's no doubt. I can feel it.
amazing.
Yeah.
And what do you think the future holds for design leadership? And how is that role evolving? And what qualities will define the next generation of leaders? Love your insights there.
Okay. I think leaders in general, I think you see this playing out in a lot of companies, not just Silicon Valley companies, but just or tech companies, but just in general companies, is getting closer to the work, and true, if you're not accountable, responsible, right?
Mhm.
So um, I've had one of the things that I brought up during the interview process here, becoming the sole like design leader here was, I want you to hold me accountable and responsible to the business results that we're going to drive. Like, I don't want there to be any obfuscation of that. And there's been obfuscation in previous roles that I've had where I'll have a marketing partner who's high up in the company and they're like, oh, I have to run this GNS or get this, LTV to CAC up or whatever, whatever it might be. Like, and I'm like, let me help you own that. And then it's like crickets, right? And so I think designers and design leaders need to get closer to the work. And the work of a design leader is driving the business forward through customer. So that's number one, I think.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is what I call sense making. And I have a colleague named Johnny Zhang, who's probably the single best hire I've ever made. And he's become such a great friend and just an amazing individual. He made me love design again. And I'll shout out Johnny. You're an amazing person. Um, we always talk about sense making. And what sense making is as a design leader is that there's going to be all this data and these feedback and there's this and there's that, but providing individuals the mental models of how you're going to move forward in the business and as a business. And so that'll be things like what is the customer's mental model of their world and how are you reflecting it back in the work that you're actually delivering? So like when I was working at Intuit, accountants was what I focused on,
Mhm.
professional accountants, working with small businesses to do bookkeeping and accountancy and advisory. And the biggest thing that I was able to do well, leading that team with Johnny, in partnership with Johnny and also Laura Dudek, another amazing design researcher who just loved design and is a futurist and was just amazing, was to bring understanding and clarity around what accountants wanted and needed through their worldview of the world. It's like anthropology. It's not, when we say design research, let's call it what it is. It's cultural understanding of these individuals and what they're doing for their livelihoods. And we have a responsibility as designers to make sense of that and present that back to our organizations and provide them with the clarity of why we're doing what we're doing, beyond a PRD, beyond a user interface, beyond all those things. That is the core. It's customer understanding, making sense of that, and letting everybody be on the same page of what that is, so that we can better provide for them. So yeah, the design leadership is to me is like again, getting closer to the work, closer to the biz, talking in business terms, and then making sense of the world that you're entering. And the last note here is that because as a business, you will have an impact on that customer, and you want to make sure that it's a positive impact. And I think we've learned enough since the year 2007, maybe 2004, five. about the consequences of not thinking, moving fast and breaking things. We can still move fast, but with a understanding and good intent. We don't have to break everything, and we can actually build things, right? And so sense making allows us to do that, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, I'm sure that will resonate with a lot of people. Absolutely. Thank you for such honest insights. Now, sadly, we're about to run out of time, but I do want to ask you one more thing.
sure.
Not saying that the interview hasn't been fun already, but even more fun now. That can you tell us something that not many people know about you? And actually, it might be that your new team don't know this, so who knows?
Oh man, don't know about me. Um, I read an extraordinary amount about geopolitical impacts, not like it, uh, when I say I'm interested in interesting things and everything's
Hmm.
interesting, yeah, I just like I'll watch a documentary, I'll read a thing, and I will be enthralled about, the history of cheese and things like that. So I think that's like a fun fact about me is
Who
that
who doesn't
like,
love cheese?
yeah, yeah, like well, just like I just maybe one day it'll all culminate to like bar trivia or pub trivia where I can answer every question, but like I just sometimes like you might look at a book of mine and be like, I cannot believe you're reading about like the cultivation of lemons or something. It's like so I I read a lot and I, the topics are so varied, I guess, is something I would assume that 98% of people don't know about me. Is that like I have weird books on my bookshelf about the
Right.
history. Yeah,
Might
very
have to
strange.
might have to share some of those with me. Sound great. Now, sadly, JB, we have run out of time, but I just want to say thank you so much for your real, honest insights and sharing your expertise with us. It's honestly been such an inspiring conversation. And for our listeners, we hope you've taken away some great tips from JB. And I'm so excited to hear about your Redpin journey.
Yeah.
But stay tuned for more episodes of TDA Talks, where we continue to explore the future of design, leadership, and innovation with brilliant minds. Until next time, thank you, JB.
No, thank you.